All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Mother's Day. Actually, I just realized it. Today is Mother's Day. So I want to, first of all, I want to wish all the mothers out there happy Mother's Day. And today's session is actually quite very special. It being Mother's Day, I'll be interviewing my mom for today's session. And before I start, let me introduce myself. My name is Debbie, and I'm from CMBL. And I'll ask my mom to introduce herself.
I go by Wambui Thuku. Other people call me Jane. Yes, I'm the mother of this wonderful, wonderful girl. And I'm delighted to do this session with her.
Yes, yes. So from the title, so it'll be let's talk about parenting. So I'll be sort of asking my mom a few questions about how it was for her raising myself and my sister, and how also we can learn from those lessons to help create a healthy parent and child relationship. All right, so I will start. So the first question. I know I know it. Hold on. How you raise a child forever affect the perspective of the world, and in most cases it's a reason as to why there are deep-rooted issues where they experience as a child. So with that in mind, what are some of the things you thought were important to keep in mind while raising us while we're kids?
Um, I want to say this, that going back to how you raise a child,
Mm-hmm.
nobody is born knowing how to raise a child.
Right.
Yeah, and so in most cases we just carry forward what we learned,
Mm-hmm.
or socialization from the people that went before us and from our parents. And
Right.
what we normally do, or what I did in my case, was trying to be different from what my mother was.
Mm.
To some extent, there are other things that come out in a very subtle way, but very pronounced,
Right.
even when you're trying to run away from the kind of parenthood that you saw or you grew up. So for me, I really wanted to have a bond with my children.
Yeah.
I was blessed with these two wonderful girls.
Mm-hmm.
And the most important thing to me was to raise these children to be better than I was
Right.
raised. Number one, and then I also wanted them to be independent and achieve more. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I still wanted discipline in their life. So I do remember I was a very strict
Oh
mother.
yeah, that is very true.
And so I wanted to have a firm foundation. And
Mm-hmm.
I must say that because of the kind of the culture that we were in,
Mm-hmm.
we had to fit in that society and the culture and the community. So raising you also had to be in line with that community and with that culture. So there's all those things that were going around then.
Mm-hmm.
And so have I answered your question in that case?
Yeah. So, like, yeah, you said you were trying to raise us differently from how your mom raised you, to ensure, and also like to ensure that you're forming a bond between us, which was really important, and also still instilling discipline and having all those align with the setting we were in and the culture. Being in Kenya, back in the day, raising children was a little bit different than how it is to raise children in the States, you know? And
Right.
so, yeah. And I feel, with that in mind, actually, I feel like um, right now we're I feel a lot of people my age who grew up in the States, they kind of had a little bit of both, where their parents grew up in Kenya and they still had those minds, that mindset, and sort of like culture. And then these kids also, like, they grew up in America and now they're more they're American born, so there's that clash of the cultures. And I feel like a lot of times that has sort of like facilitated a lot of the mental problems that these children go through because of trying, like there's that lack of identity. They're not sure. And, the parents don't really understand how to sort of like mold their parenting style to fit in with the new environment that their children are growing in. So what can can you add, speak to that,
Yeah, I agree with you. There's that clash between the cultural expectation here in the United States of America and the background. And I would say there's also that bridge. So
Mm-hmm.
the issue is how to bridge. I mean, to cover the gap, the
Right.
bridge, the gap that is in between the two. So the fact that a mother moves or relocates from Kenya to the United States does not change the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But they're raising children who are also growing in this cultural setup in America, which is very different. And so there's always that bridge and there's always that conflict,
Right.
which I would actually speak to the mothers of my age or even younger that were raised, and they have their own expectations of how these children should grow up. So as a mother, we are always right. And we want children to follow what we want them to follow. But it's also important to understand where these children are growing is different from the way we grew up. We grew up fetching water, going to the river and fetching water and mingling with other children in the village or in the communities that we grew up. But it's different here. They're going to school, they're learning different culture, they're using internet, computer, and all that. So I think the burden lies on the parents to get to that level, understand the children, because the children don't have the mindset of where you're coming from. But you as a mother have the ability to know where you're coming from and how to be flexible and just come to that level and understand what is going on and how can we bridge this gap and how can I raise these children with all these different perspectives from different communities. So yeah, at the end of it all, the burden is not on the children, because we always say that children, they don't listen to parents. You don't listen to parents. But I also feel that it's also our burden. On top of feeling that we are burdened to provide, we also have a responsibility to understand what is going on the low level, in the home setup, even before the children go out to school.
Right.
And socialize with other people out in the community.
Right. And we were talking about like, having the parents try and understand your children. What can you tell? I mean, what can you advise this parent who's, having really a difficult time trying to because I feel like understanding comes from your mindset, like trying to like shift their mindset to try and understand their children. Especially like the more traditional parents, like how do you tell them, okay, this is what it is to understand your child, like setting aside your thoughts, like, yes, you are right, but again, this is your child. What do you tell them?
It is very difficult. And I don't want to be the gospel truth, because it's raising children is a trial and error. And it has to do with basically, again, our raising, how we were raised, and what the society expected of us. So there are things in play here, and I'm going to talk about them. So we have religion, which has really, really formed most of us, my generation of parents and people who are above me. And I remember the most common verse that we used to quote: spare the rod,
spoil the child.
child.
Yeah.
I used that. I was very an ardent believer in that one. But anyway,
We got a lot of whoopings.
but I think what I tend to think is that we don't have to be rigid. Flexibility, it's okay to be flexible as a parent. It is important to be flexible because you don't want to lose this child. You're bombarded by so much. You have the expectation to provide for the family, especially in the United States of America. You have to wake up, maybe do double shift. But remember, this child did not ask to be brought into this world.
Right.
You opted to bring the child into the world. So you have the responsibility to make, kind of try and be flexible to understand and not just say, hey, we did not grow that way, and this is the way you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
And sometimes we find a lot of opposition because, and the other thing I want to say is that children are not the same. We cannot have a rule of them that we have the same rules for every child. You and Thuku are totally different.
Right.
And I've said it over and over and over again. Sometimes when we argue, and why is it that you're not doing this with this one? And that one will always come. But the important thing for a parent to know is that children are not the same. So one discipline may apply to one, the other one may not. So that's what calls for parents to be smart, flexible, and just reason with what they know, and also try something that they don't know.
Yeah.
Because you're looking forward to just changing and hoping that this child grows up to be a better community member.
Right. Absolutely. I 100% agree. I feel like and I think that's one of the things I've come to observe with us, that your willingness to be flexible. I have to say, you did say you were like my mom was really strict back when we were young. And, I look back and see the progression that has come along. We've come a long way. I just have to say we've come a long way. But it's that ability to be flexible that allows us to have a more a stronger bond, and also allows space for us to communicate about anything, like just knowing that I can come and tell you whatever it is, and you're not going to come from a place of judgment or a place of like condemnation. You allow me to say what it is, and then we'll figure that we'll kind of continue building from there. And actually that kind of goes to my next question. When we think communication, I feel like communication is a big thing, and it's usually the biggest thing that like they're not having good communication brings a lot of conflict. As a parent, what's your what's your view on good way of communicating with your children that does not really just block out things and things like that?
That's a very challenging question, seriously, because communication is big. It's big. And especially people communicate, the current generation is just weird when it comes to communication. Let me say
Gen Z. It's not millennials, it's Gen Z.
I don't even know all those names, but let me tell you, you're talking to somebody and they're on the phone. And they also Google how different parents do. I don't know whether we're always in the, Googled and all that. I don't know. But this generation of internet communication is bad. However, my generation, my communication is way worse because for me, the way I grew up, I never asked my mom questions. If I dared, I'm like, she would just say, can you do what I'm telling you to do? Just don't ask me questions.
Yeah.
And then we're in this generation where they ask all sorts and kind of questions. Sometimes you don't want to answer that because sometimes they're embarrassing. Sometimes they'll just trigger something within you that you really don't want. And then you say, hey, I cannot answer that. Just do what I told you to. So what I think is the best communication is being authentic. Even when you feel that you're not doing the right thing, just, we fear as parents, I do, and I did probably, that if I were authentic and genuine in answering your questions, maybe you could use that against me and disobey. There are all those sort of fears that some people have, but I've learned that the more honest you are, the more it hits home.
Right.
Because even the children will need to know I'm a human being and I make mistakes. I've done this. And, I remember every time when we talk, and sometimes I remember some of the things that I did. And to be honest, every parent knows. They see the mistakes that we did in our own children. So it just comes around. And so the notion of I was number one, I was very perfect. The notion of perfectionism is not real.
Please say that again.
I'm saying the truth because not everyone was number one in their school. But anyway, most of us went to school without shoes. That is true. Right. Yeah, it's true. Most of us
walked for miles and miles without
kilometers. We call them kilometers.
Okay, kilometers. Yes.
It is true. But when you hear every parent was number one position,
they always had an A.
I was not good in math. I used to get spanked and caned every time. It is true. I wasn't good in that. Yeah. And so, being authentic is very important, that the children may learn that we also had our own struggles when we were growing. Yeah. And that helps in building a rapport. Communication is clear and allowing children to express themselves, even to ask those most weirdest, most embarrassing questions. Yeah. For example, when a young child is growing and they ask a child, I'd ask you, oh, Mom, how do children come into the world? And then we'll say that we were buying them from the
supermarket.
Don't do that. Tell them as it is, however hard it is, just go ahead, because in one way or another, they'll get the information and it will be misinformation. Yeah. And I do see most of the times when we talk, you guys quote and say, Mom said this, and you see those things because I told you what it was and the truth of the matter. So,
Yeah. And, I feel like, and, with, especially in the early age, children really pick up a lot of things from their parents, even like the non-spoken, mostly the non-spoken things, where, you tell your child, don't do this, yet you're doing that. They pick up on those things. And then once they grow up, you wonder, okay, why are they being like this? It's because, those are the things that were being done within the house and things like that. And, I like the fact that you said being authentic and, parents showing their children sort of like their vulnerability and showing them that they're real, because when children growing up, the parents are their like everything, superheroes, they're like God. You think they're perfect, but then that sets them up for failure in life, because you want to say, oh, I always got an A, you never failed. Life is full of failures. And so the one time that they fail, they think that, oh my God, my life is over, but that's not it. And I definitely did like that part, say parents maintaining their authenticity and being open and vulnerable with their children, because then if your child sees that, yes, you did fail, but then you came up and overcame that and you become the person that you are, then it translates to their lives and they're like, yes, I did fail, but that's not the end of it all. That's not the end. I still gotta keep going and pushing, because that's life. So final question, we're actually kind of running out of time. The last question I would ask, I like to end with, what would be your piece of advice to give to a parent who's trying to reestablish a healthy bond with their child?
Small steps.
Yeah.
Just start with small steps of authenticity, feeling vulnerable, creating more time with the child. And for young mothers who are just bringing the children into this world start as early as possible. Even when the children are in the womb, speak to them, because there's that non-verbal communication, which is very strong. So I would say that it's a wonderful thing to be a parent.
Yeah.
It comes with a very big responsibility. And I wish all parents would just learn to be authentic and to feel vulnerable and also seek counseling. It's okay even to go for therapist when you feel that you're not doing the right thing. Seek therapy and ask, what should I do and how should I change this, because I want to raise this wonderful person, this human being, because they are human beings, and also teachers. And the last thing is that we should also know that we're also learning, and we are learning from you guys. So we are not just teaching you, but we learn. I've learned a lot, like internet thing and Googling and all that. All those things that I ask you guys. I don't even know the FaceTime. I refuse to do that, but I learned to use it.
Yes, yes, you had to learn.
So learning is two-way traffic. So you're just having a relationship with another human being that you have brought into this world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh my God, this was so amazing. I wish, I feel like we needed more time for this, but because of time constraints, this is where we'll end our discussion. I hope that you guys enjoyed this little discussion that we did. And again, to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. We really appreciate you. We would not be in this world without you, without your love, without your sacrifices and everything that you've done for us. And to you, Mom, happy Mother's Day. I love you very much. And thank you for sharing this opportunity with me. I think this was fun. We should do more of this, actually.
Yeah, 1 second before you go. I know you made me a mother. And May 12th is your birthday. So can I take this opportunity to wish you all the best? And I'm so glad, I'm so happy and delighted to see the wonderful young woman you have become.
Aww.
And I feel proud.
Okay, let's stop because the tears are going to come out.
All right. Peace to you all. Peace to you all.
All right. Let me stop recording.